Follow me on Facebook or Twitter. And if you dare, to the buffet table. Good evening, good people. My name is Michael DeCarlo, and this is DeCarlosDanger.com. And in the spirit of July and what it really means to be an American, I'd like to show you to the use of my words in the words that were written a long, long time ago that may inspire you to look inward beyond the stuff that's on television that's getting you to either agree with the president, Mr. Trump, or disagree with Mr. Trump. It matters not to me, as there's much more things that unify us than divide us. For instance, in July of 1776, certain things were written down. And if you listen to the words and you substitute king for city government, county government, or state government, we'll exclude the federal government at this point because it matters not. But here's the catch, folks. No matter how angry you get at the city or the county, there's this layer in between. It's most likely a metropolitan area. The metropolitan area is an extra duty for your elected folks to show up. And when they don't show up because they're unaware of their responsibilities, the planners that are employed by both the city and the county get together and they create these friction points that are carried forward without any one there that represents you. Only because it's a multi-layered tetrahedron. And you'll figure that out later. But anyway, back to this thing that was written back in 1776. We're going to read this here, and I hope you give me permission and liberty with my words. So we want to plug in all forms of government for the king, right? Remember that, okay? All right, kids? Especially you grandkids. Because you can't be a sucker and you can never trust the government. You got to remember, Grandpa told you this, okay? My grandpa told me this, I don't know, going on 30 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. But I'm telling you this now, and it's actually recorded digitally for posterity. Yay! You'll never forget it, and if you do, you just push rewind. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. That among these rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted amongst men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shewn that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, providing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and of such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. He has refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance, unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained. And when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodations of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records, for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions of the rights of the people. He has refused from time to time, after such dissolutions, to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their very exercise. The state remaining in the meantime exposed to all dangers of invasion from without, and convulsions within. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states for that purpose, obstructing the laws of naturalizations of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of land. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to law for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out our subsistence. He has kept among us, in times of peace, standing armies without consent of our legislature. He has affected to render the military independent of and superior to civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretend legislation, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by a mock trial from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off trades with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us, in many cases, of the benefits of a trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses, for abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies, for suspending our legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection in waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coast, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny, already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy, scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages, and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, and to fall themselves by their hand. He has excited domestic insurrections amongst us, and he has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers, the merciless Indian savages, who, known for their cruel warfare, is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our emigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice, of consanguinity. We must, therefore, acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation and hold them, as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends. We, therefore, representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress assembled, appealing to the supreme judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do in the name and of the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that a free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all the acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, we, with the firm reliance and the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Let it sink in, folks. Let it sink in. It takes a moment. But when you look around you, these things have never changed. It's almost like the movie Patriot. Why would I change one tyrant 2,000 miles away for 2,000 tyrants 1 mile away? Peace, guys. Take care. God bless. There endeth the rant.